There have been a lot of comments on YouTube recently that I've seen about the war, the Iraq War, and I want to give a few of my viewpoints. First of all, I am not a peacenik. I'm certainly not anti-war at all. Certainly not. I think our response after the Twin Towers attack of 9/11 was very appropriate. We went in and bombed Afghanistan. In fact, I think our response to Afghanistan may have been a bit weak-kneed. I think we should have been a bit more forceful in Afghanistan when we went over. If so, you never know. Perhaps Osama bin Laden would be dead by now. Perhaps the Taliban and Al-Qaeda would be weaker if we would have used more forcefulness in the events after 9/11. Now, as far as Iraq, well, let me back up here a bit. First of all, let's understand that the United States Constitution declares that only Congress has the authority to declare war against another nation, not the President. And that's my only objection to the Iraq War, and I mean my only objection is that it was not a constitutionally declared war. Congress did not issue an act of war against Iraq. Yes, they did give the President some authority to do that, but that's not the authority of Congress to do that under the Constitution. Yes, my friends, the Constitution is clear. Only Congress can declare war, not the President. Other than that, though, suppose I had been on Congress back when President Bush set forth his request for us to go to war with Iraq. If you recall, there was some intelligence at the time that declared that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and that he was definitely a threat to the United States. If I had been in Congress, I would have seen the evidence and so forth. If I would have believed the evidence was sound, then yes, I would have voted yes to invade Iraq back then. Now there's been some things said since then that perhaps that intelligence was faulty, was flawed. Well, that's a whole other issue. At the time, back in 2002, when the resolution was first put forth, I mean, the intelligence was there. Based on the evidence, I think I would have voted yes to go to war with Iraq at that time. Absolutely. Now, but I don't think really the question is whether we should have gone there in the first place or not. I think how was the war handled since then? Well, I think President Bush and Donald Rumsfeld executed a weak-kneed, limp-wristed, weak-at-the-knees response in Iraq. They went in, fought a politically correct war that they were afraid to do what the military should be doing: crush, kill, and destroy. That's the purpose of the military. If we're in a war, you go there, crush the enemy, use overwhelming force, defeat the enemy, and then come home. And that was not done in Iraq. The biggest mistake in Iraq was about 2 months after the war was going on, President Bush appeared on that aircraft carrier and made a big announcement. Major hostilities have ended. And I thought at that time, you know, that's a huge mistake because there are still pockets of resistance out there. There will be pockets of insurgents and resistance who will start attacking our troops and so forth, kind of like terrorists, the way they do, suicide bombings and everything. And guess what? That's just what happened. So I think what happened was we didn't use enough forcefulness in Iraq to begin with, and then we pulled back the amount of troops way too soon before the job was done. Now, there were also some comments that I saw on World War II and the fact that we dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan back during World War II. Well, I think that was a very justified, very appropriate action to take because it did help it helped end our hostilities with Japan a lot earlier than what would have. I'd read that if we would not have dropped the atomic bombs in Japan back in World War II, the war could have lasted 6 months longer. A lot more of our troops could have been killed. So, by dropping those bombs, yes, it did kill a lot of civilians, women and children and so forth. But, as a result of that, though, it ended the war early. It saved the lives of a lot of American troops. Wasn't it General Patton that said something like, no man ever won a war by dying for his country. He won a war by making the other poor son of a bitch die for his country. Good advice. That's the way to do it.